Kindly sit down and thank you for your courtesy. Salamat po. Uh, an event as important as this tonight, talking about what ails humanity. I was just given a prepared speech of 2 pages. I would be through in about a minute and a half, and I have to say my goodbye. Though I have also another appointment waiting in Cagayan de Oro, just across the channel facing Mindanao. May I just acknowledge the Presidential Assistant for the Visayas, Michael Lloyd Dino, the officers and members of Asia Pacific Association for Gastroenterology, led by Professor Kentaro Sugano, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am tempted to go right ahead and read my speech, but after a minute and a half, I seem to be in a very uncomfortable situation to just say my goodbye, because I know that you waited a little bit longer for me. I had to go to the families of those who died and those in the hospitals and to condole with them. And again, the hardships of life. It is not really germane to what we are discussing now. But I just would want also to lay my predicate, the foundation of my speech. And I do not deliver speeches, actually. I would like just to talk to my audience. That is why I do not read speeches. But for some reason, maybe they thought I'd really be late, because I had to visit so many families. They just prepared this 1 minute zing, and it's tapos. So I'd begin by saying that whether or not climate change is true, the fact is that comparatively, when you're around, I was born in the 40s, and you are still surviving today, there's really something wrong with the planet Earth. I remember being here because of my father, who comes from Mindanao, Cebu. But my mother is a Mindanaoan. I used to experience, when I was a little boy, typhoons here. But we migrated to Mindanao, and it's an island which is not visited by typhoons, if at all, rarely. And that is why it beacons the investors to go to Mindanao. But the only thing really that is terribly missing is there's a lot of trouble. You have the drug front, which has been very toxic to the Filipino people. Then you have the Muslim insurgency, those claiming only territorial rights, and those who are extremists and have mingled with the ISIS. I don't know about these idiots, but all that they do is all that they know. And all that they can maybe do in this lifetime is to just kill and destroy. So we have a very vicious thing in Mindanao. As you had the Marami siege. It was almost like 5 months fighting, though we were aware that there was a build-up, but we underestimated. And as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the police, there's nobody to blame but me, because when the day is done, I'm the one up there, a very lonely job. to state to the people whether you did it right or you did it wrong. Then you have the Communist Party of the Philippines, which is still very active until now. And my lamentation was that, I'm a man who grew up in a place where a lot of us migrated from Cebu. Maybe at that time, the dream of my father was to go there to seek the greener pasture. Cebu, I do not remember the economics here, I'm still young. But maybe because of the opportunities provided for a new land like Mindanao. And it drizzles every afternoon. But today, as in any other place, in any country, if you have storms, there's always the precipitation is that big, especially the Philippines, which is facing the Pacific Ocean. They say it's the warning and a warming because it's boiling, and every time it hits westward towards Asia, Philippines is always there because they are the window of the Pacific. The other night I was in Baguio. I visited the victims and to go there to have a look at the landslides and all. And yesterday, this thing happened, and I had to fly here to also condole and to extend assistance. When you read something like even in the Atlantic storm surge warning, the story does not end there. Maybe in some mitigated damage, mitigated in human lives. But when you talk of storms nowadays, so many factors are allied into it, mostly bad ones. When the storm hits, you have to worry about the destruction of life, homes, infrastructure. Then you have to worry about the flooding and the crops of the farmers, because the Philippines is fundamentally an agricultural country until now. Then you have to worry about the health issues for those who died, for those who need hospitalization and medicines and all. It does not end there. You have the social dysfunction. If they lose, like one family, she was the only one left behind. And she could not even cry when she was made the narration how it happened. And that's a problem about storms. It does not end by the public warning that there is a storm. When you plan, you have to think of needs, pre-positioning the help, and everything, food, medical doctors and all. And usually here in the Philippines, the safest sanctuary to seek protection from the elements, the brutality of bad weather, really are the schools. When the schools are occupied by the evacuees, the victims, it causes a derailment of the education of the children until such time that the victims are relocated or transferred to another place. Until then, you have to suffer the loss of precious time in education and so many things that come along the way. So that's the entire picture of what a storm is. It means death, It means the collapse of so many mining. Actually, it's to me, I have this great dream because there is a law which allows mining. And it is an act of Congress, which I cannot overrule. I can only implement the measures therein the law. But to have the law or not, that's not for the executive department. It belongs to the legislator. Now, if I impose stringent measures, well, they would say that my advisor would say, go easy on this because it's a 70 billion industry a year in taxes. So you begin now to make a sort of a mental exercise of how much would you lose in terms of totality of the peso as against the earnings by way of taxes from mining companies. If you are from here, you go around Mindanao, mostly Mindanao, but it's happening in all other places. You would see up top of the mountains like the cork of sodas, the cup of a Coke or a Pepsi, or I'd like to advertise every so that there's no favoritism and whatnot. It's like a tansan. Tansan is the native word for cup. And it's there in the mountains. You see that. Mines that are already stopped or has transferred to other place are taken over by the illegals with no permit, and they dig and dig, and it's an open hole. It's not the thing that you bore on the sides of the mountains. It ain't that way. So there are a lot of things there, and whether you like it or not, they are catch basin of waters. And if they are absorbed into the core, where the rock formations are there, somehow when you disturb nature, the complex soil of which has been there, tightly knitted by nature, is totally broken. So there are so many holes there, and down just beside that mountains are the settlement of workers, the illegal mining activity. So when it rains like cats and dogs, the tunnel collapses, the mountain breaks free, and you have this disaster. I have been saying right at the start that one day, and I hope to realize it, I pray to God that I'll still be there by that time. I'll give them maybe, I've been warning that I will eventually close mining operations in the most part of our country. It's because the 70 billion that we earn by way of tax is not enough to compensate for all the suffering and agony that we have to experience every time there's a calamity such as a typhoon. So that's how it is. Now, the health problem. From my observation, not yet when I was mayor, but when I became president, I noticed that about 40% of all my soldiers and policemen suffer abdominal disorder. I don't know. Maybe it's the food. You know, when the soldier they go to the mountains, drink the water without purifiers, and it's just because it's a spring in the mountain. you just easily conclude that it's clean, that it is pure. I don't think that that is true because I said most of my, they have this, it's in the gastroenterologist's territory. Most of them are destroyed. That's, most of them die of something wrong there. Good now that you have been able to improve the AFP and hospital and the Viluna. Last month, I fired the head of the medical institution of the AAP, the Armed Forces of the Philippines. For what? For delivery, ghost deliveries of medicine. And so when I saw the report, I said, you have to go. You have to go. And anybody else would want to join you, you are free all to do it and go away. That's the history. Sometimes, how well you craft a plant, sometimes it goes with a big bang. You guys, Filipinos, know that. You have this inaugurational thing, partying and all, announcing. 6 months after, it's the papers are there on the, with the ombudsman being investigated. That's the history of the Philippines. And when you try to be strict, because that was one of my promises, remember that I only have 5. One is I did not have any money. In the entire Philippines, there are about how many provincial governors? 78. I only had one, Abet of Bataan, because he was my friend during our days when I was a congressman. In the entire Visayan region, even in the town where my father was born, it was only my relatives, not one government official. Barangay Kagawan, all of them, the bigwigs. Well, of course, I won. Mindanao, I had about 2, 3. Subiri, Nograles. The father is, I don't like the father, but the problem is the son is my nephew because the mother is my cousin. The situation here is we need to, but the hospitals now, the military, have improved greatly. We have when I was day one of my being worker of government for a national office, I went to and inspected. They had they were still using an old building, and I went up to see the sanitation, the hygiene of the place. And the water was going back, not going down the drain, but going back. And so I said, how can my soldiers be healthy and cured if this is the situation? And I said during the time the medicine scandal broke out, how can I expect my soldiers to? So, but when you begin to try to really be strict about it, firing people until now. You know, the sad thing is the very first people that are fired were the ones I brought to the office, but they were the ones who were with me in 1988 when I became mayor. I've been mayor for 23 years. Ang mga putang, sila pa nauna. That is my lamentation. Sila pa ang nauna. Sila ang karamihan na talagang. So, the medical situation here, trying to relate it with also the improvement, the vastly improved military equipment, is because I've been wanting really to see something that's an improvement of the other administrations in the past. You might want to also know that one of the medical solutions to drug smuggling is it's a medical condition. Because I said, when you destroy my country, when you do drugs, you destroy the country. That is very true. It's true in every Latin American country. It's true in Mexico and all. Even the Americans are having a hard time coping up with the drug problem. But when I was building a city for the first time in 1988, I said, I am going to build a city comfortable. One, do not destroy it, because I will kill you. Do not destroy our children. They're the only ones. They are our only assets. Most of us are pretty hard up. And so we try to educate our children so that when we grow old, somebody can pay for the medicines, for the oxygen, for the hospitalization, which is very expensive, and to pay the funeral parlor on your graveyard. So without them, you will just rot away. Most of the Filipino guards, police, how much do they receive? They retire at the age of 56. And that's it, if they don't find another job. At that time, most of their children, on the average, about 2, 3. Some are still struggling to finish college. Not in fancy universities but in public schools. And if you feed them with drugs, you contaminate everybody. They'll end up not even being able to pay one night for a last vigil. And if it happens to be a Sunday, you bring your, because the religion says that you have to be blessed, or else you go to hell. You bring it to the church, have it blessed, but still he goes to jail because he's a sinner like us. That's the problem with it's all expense. If you marry, you pay. Burial, you pay. Baptism, you pay. Son of God. And you tell me that your religion is good. And that's why I said, your God is not my God. Your God is stupid. My God has a lot of common sense. And that is why I have this. Really. It's if you have time, you read Altar Secrets. It's written by a narrator of this CBCP. Meron ko ba dyan? I'll pakikuha nga, Lorena. I'm not attacking the church. I just want the truth. Because even during our time, second year, some of you guys graduated from Ateneo de Manila, Ateneo. But if it's Ateneo, Sundays, just a confession, right? Then we hear Mass and take communion. All. Di ba? The reason why I hated, it's now being blown to. It is connected with health. Believe me, it's mental health this time. It's nothing to do with the thing that you. That's why when Joy, I am not ridiculing you. But if my friends would say, oh, I ride the motor. I used to motocross then. And I have toured this country, the whole length and breadth of my country, with the big bike. Salamat. So when somebody complains to me, my ass is aching, and what comes to mind to me is, you go to Suliano. Well, well, I hope it is not bad to be to have a connotation. Suliano. Problem with the ass? Suliano. I had mine, colonoscopy and endoscopy about a week ago. Joy did the procedure. And he said that I have a bad case of Barrett. He said, if you'll just stop drinking, you will live. The problem is, here's the book, Altar Secrets, written by a Filipino, a narrator of the Bishops' Conference. He has a foreword of Marites Bitog. There's an international book, and if you have time, it would do you well to. It's popes, the popes, plural. Very same here. Philippine contemporary. Ito, graduate ka pa naman ng Santo Tomas. Ilan ka ba kayo dito? But I studied in Ateneo with the priest, and I graduated from San Beda for my law school and AB. I have nothing against them, but the problem is they never really investigated the cases there. Because I said, during confession time, all of us, 2 years up and 2 years down. And it's in the internet, if you want to. He's the priest who was sued by the victims in the Diocese of LA. And they had to cough up to 15 million to settle the case. It's there. Father Harry Falvey, Falvey, Harry. You can get it in seconds. Look at his resume. He was assigned here in Mindanao, Ateneo. They never investigated the case. I knew that the church knew about this. And the homosexuality all over. And the philandering priest. They all keep on making this facade of righteousness and everything. When they know that after all, they're also a bunch of shit because we are all humans. That is my problem. That's why I am a Christian, but I'm not a Catholic anymore. And besides, I really did not have any clear religion because my mother is a Moro. She's a half Maranao. It's my father who's the Christian. I said by when these scandals and the Catholic Church of the Philippines never bothered to investigate them. And all the things that they did, asking cars from government, getting it free. I mean, they know very well that there is a separation of church and state. That no money of the government shall be spent for the benefit of the religious or religion. And I have to. So if you're ready, I would just like to. Would you rather that I read the speech or you continue to listen to me? Well, the one thing is about my ICC, International Court of Justice. I said, you're all bullshits. They want to send me to prison and try me for genocide. It was not for a race or a bunch of criminals. They cannot even show me how they died, when did they die, where, nothing. I would just say, and you're familiar with that. Duterte time, 4,000 killed. Susma. Me killing 4,000? I won't have even a time to sit for a shit, if that is the case. It would keep me busy 24 hours. But you know, it started as a campaign issue. And the priests, they had a demonstration. They promised 1 million protesters. And I asked, I forgot to ask one of my military aides, how many were there? Said, a little over. And even 50, I'd be satisfied. It's about 20. 20 idiots, including the ICC. What's your problem claiming, who are you to run my country? That's the problem with the European Union. They are into international governing. They create an ICC, European community, and they try to impose their values and the way they think how criminal is categorized and classified and want to impose it. It's a new colonialism. And I think Bolton was right. He attacked but before that I was the one, I said, it got me a quarrel with Obama. Obama was, now that he is done, and you review his activism, more of a communist or a leftist. That's why I'm sorry to just to say it to you in front of you. I called him, you son of a bitch, you go to hell. You know, you are a president of America. Very powerful, good. You are the conscience of the world, fine. But you do not castigate a head of state like me in a press briefing in the White House. You know, guys, if you want something done about me and my accusations, there's always the United Nations. That's the forum where we air our grievance against anybody. But you just take for granted just because I am a very small republic. That's why after that I announced that there will be an independent policy. Then I started to go to China, Russia. We have been very constricted in our national policy because we were dovetailing American policies. Say, enough is enough. That was Obama. Duterte can go to prison. What bullshit is it? You shut up, you son of a bitch. You can go to hell. Now here comes Trump. Comes to the Philippines. Oh, Rodrigo, you're my man here. I like what you're doing. I'm going to do it too. Which is which and what is which? Yan ang ayaw ko dyan. I am not, but I am not the favorite of anybody, and I don't care. I mean, I was not elected by America. God, I was elected by the Filipino people. I answer only to Filipinos, not to foreigners. And I don't give a shit if you do not like it. That is my answer to it all. Now back to medicine. And now I'll just end my talk by just allow me to give you a vignette of life. Historically, I took after my mother, was always constipated. Yeah, that was her complaint. But she lived to be 96 years old. So if you want to live forever, pray for constipation. Well, I'm telling you the truth. And that was also genetically maybe. And I have a son, Sebastian. He got it also. As a matter of fact, he started to have a leak because of, he was also a patient of Joy. Joy said, just plenty of water, plenty of water. Plenty of water. The problem is plenty of visits to the bathroom. You can go there for about 4 or 5 times because the bladder is going to burst. Then somebody, a Chinese, by the way, my grandfather, the father of my mother, was a Chinese guy. And some of our relatives from China were here, they visit. And my son was complaining about bleeding and there's a leak. And this Chinese relative of ours said, I don't know if you don't believe it, but we do it in our place. We do it as a cure. So you drink 1 cup of, it's quite expensive here, bird's nest, because I think it's all fiber. You just drink 1 bottle every night before sleeping. It's just like a gelatin, bird's nest, very similar. Then you take Yakult. It's what's that? Oh, probiotic. I'm telling you, on my oath as a worker of government, I have not had any problem. But if you are new to, you have to make adjustments because sometimes the calling to the bathroom can go as far as 3 times. But if you take it regular every night, reduce it to. I'm telling you, oh, you guys, forget about your gastro thing. Really, if that commitment fails, you come back and ask for reparations. I am telling you now, and you can do it tonight. You buy the bird's nest, it's quite expensive. Here, it's imported. I think China has the greatest supply of that. That's the swallow, the swallows, saliva. To think that, really, wala na, no more problem. And my son is back to his business of womanizing. He doesn't want to work. He doesn't, so okay. And he was, said, because was complaining to me when we had a dinner with the relatives. But I'm almost sometimes, I cannot address in front of the woman because I'm embarrassed. Because sometimes there's a piece of shit there. Sabi ko, you have a leak already because of ano ba itong almoranas na putang inan to? Hemorrhoids. Tapos yun, totoo yan. At least 2 already, my son and I can guarantee you. And I think the secret there is milk, of course, it's yung probiotics. The other thing is it's gelatin, almost like a gelatin fiber. Talagang wala no more need of, but I just had mine since about 2 years ago. And my physician, she's a lady, keep on insisting that I have to take. The danger there is, the joke is that the one that you stick on your ass will be the one you also stick inside your throat. That's the favorite joke. Hala ka. Punta ka doon. But ako, I recommend. I've always been recommending. Gastro, go to Suliano. Yes. I have my favorite experts. Neuro, go to si Mercado. But he's retired. I have a spinal. And the reason why you see me pushing my neck, even in public, even when I am talking, I'm just to lessen the pressure. I do the motor, but I suffered several. The last one I was already mayor, and that was present one. And Mercado says, well, we can mitigate, but not entirely. But my wife, who's a nurse, said no. Said no. I said, oh, well, if it can help us. She said no. Why? If you cannot die, then I want you to suffer for your sins. Okay. You are in constant pain, good. You deserve it. But no. And she was an OFW. She used to work there. She said there's a spinal. She did the research, and after that she said no. So we all go aging, we suffer. And modern medicine can maybe help you a bit. But the thing here is that it's more of a prevention, and that is what we totally lack. Do not be offended, but the procedure is quite expensive, and not everybody can afford it. Only those who have, and hardly. But we were able to buy our machines then for the soldiers. And I think PGH has one. But I will acquire more to serve the Davao City, as I think, the Davao Medical Center has one. And some of the hospitals, but not all. But if there's anything that is utterly lacking in the Philippines, is that those things that can prevent, and because of poverty sometimes. You know what? I'd like to end this by saying I've seen a lot of guys my age when we were migrants here. They want to be so sturdy and strong doing manual labors. And to think that we touch base here in Davao, in my place, quite in a squatters. But to think that they have survived and are really very strong and sturdy, there's only one thing that I can, maybe God is sometimes kind. He builds your immunity system that good. Because some of them are, I'm 73, and they're still very good, still healthy, no problem. And maybe because you cannot afford these things, you must have a very good immune system that can really help you fight. I don't know about this inflammatory. No, I'm not joking, but I'm just trying to tell you, my bowel movement is very good. It's soft, actually. So I cannot understand when you say inflammatory bowel diseases. What is inflamed? Maybe the colon or the thing itself. Because sometimes it is big, sometimes it is small. Merong panahon na it comes in trickles and very thin, poorly nourished, you would say. But sometimes it's plenty of water, it goes just, it slides down easy. So I hope that you can discover, but one thing is very important here, it's the early diagnosis. And I said it's prevention. In most of my soldiers and policemen, they go to the jungle and maybe the sanitation of hygiene, food, or it is not cooked at all. And that is the prevalent disease of the armed forces. Yeah, in its totality, we all Filipino, because of I don't know, but we have the money. It's alam mo, kayong mga Pilipino, may pera man tayo. We have the money, but the problem is every purchase of any government use, maski ito mga ganito, anything, there's always a. I said, you start with a big bang project dito, then after that, you hear, it's being investigated. I cannot really understand. One time in a command conference, I was just fixing the problem of Nayong Filipino. You might have heard of that. There was a raucous. I fired all of them. They were all my supporters, and they were all corrupt. I fired them. So I was not quite in my equanimity at that time. I went to attend a command conference. I was given a short note about the ghost delivery. So I said, guys, I cannot stop corruption. Hindi ko kaya. It's beyond me. I cannot catch up with the rate that it's developing, it's going. And I said, I just confronted this guy, and you give me now this problem, and it's about medicines for my soldiers. Ghost delivery, so what will you give to the soldiers? Aspirin? So I said, no, if the four commanders, major commanders of the year, Air Force, Navy, Army, and the police, If you would stand now and say, I quit, I will quit, and later announce it to you. If you give me this kind of thing, I try to, I'm not a saint. As a matter of fact, I have a plan. Do not worry. You go to hell, because if I go ahead, I will just ask, where is Satan? And I will just go directly to him and give him a kick in the face and slap him. You stand there. The new Satan has arrived. And there will be peace, because I will talk to God. Why do you have to do this to your people? You created man, so why do you have to create hell for him? Well, anyway, that was my problem with the corruption. And again, I'll say it again. My last sentence would be, for as long as there is no law and order, matagal yan. Long time in coming because of the rebellion and itong drugs. For as long as we do not have law and order, and for as long as there is corruption in government, this country will never rise. We cannot even equal the economic level now of Malaysia and Indonesia. We are poor. I hate to hear Filipinos criticizing us. After this World War, everybody was rehabilitating their own countries. They're searching for natural resources. And there is one thing that God gave to other people which He did not give to us. What is that? It's oil. What's driving inflation now? Simply, it's the prices of oil. You will look around anywhere, this microphone, this book, this glass of water, your suit is connected with oil. Because they are made of machines and equipments, and those machines and equipment work only if there is oil to fuel it. No oil, then you have to buy. Very expensive. And that is why, one of the reasons, it's not an excuse. I admit there is an inflation, but it's really the number one culprit is the oil, price of oil. It used to be 43, now it's 100 per barrel. It's more than 100 per barrel now. And when you go home, you use the car and everything, your aircon eats oil, light eats oil. Everything is oil. God did not give it to us. He gave it to Indonesia, lots of it, Malaysia and Brunei. What's our sin? Or why God made it that way, I really do not know. But if somebody would want to read this book, I can leave it here. And if you are an independent, or if you are abroad, look for that. I think you can buy it online. The Popes. And I assure you, when you meet me next time, you will smile. You will smile. Not really in derogation of the religion, but you will smile. Because we only talk truth in public. We do not lie. I do not lie. Do you know why? I do not have the slightest obligation to tell a lie. God damn it. So I simply tell the truth. What's in my mind, I say it in public. As I said, I do not have any. Wala akong obligasyon na mag... Thank you.